you think these ratios and sort of the parameters that have been provided are broad enough to not leave out candidates which require restructuring? I think there was some concern that if you make this too rule-based rather than principle-based, then you get into a scenario where somebody doesn't meet one ratio, or somebody was on 30th March or 1st March in default, but was not earlier a poor candidate. Essentially, the fact that when you make it too granular, you leave out discretion entirely.
Absolutely. I won't agree with you more. I think the biggest problem has been to make things too granular, such that they become impossible to achieve, and then people start fudging to achieve them, and this is where the program fails. But I must tell you this: that the law, that this particular report does have the flexibility that if your name is not mentioned in the industry concerned, you could use your discretion and arrive at the right numbers. It does say that. Having said that, I mean, sometimes I wonder how we are going to be working with some of these ratios. Take real estate, for example. Many times, the larger real estate company has raised debt, and then that debt is pushed down as capital into an operating company, which holds the real estate project. And then you're having, it says, the rule says that the ratios that are mentioned here need to work at the operating company level. Now, we don't take care of multiple tiers of leverage. So we'll be able to resolve stuff at the lower level. How will we now work out, given the legacy structure that we're in, where debt is taken at the top, pushed down as equity, some of it fresh equity is raised at that debt company, at that operating company level, and then you say that you need to maintain leveraging at that particular operating project level. I think it's a little utopian for people to expect that capital structures will change overnight in COVID times, and promoters will do this just to avoid a provisioning requirement, which the banks have, which is 10%. At the end of the day, some of these promoters will just come and say, listen, let's just go back to the June 7th circular, and the banks, tough luck, you take the hit. But I'm not able to meet some of these ratios. So these ratios have to be met only when the banks don't want to take a provisioning on their books. Don't also forget that a lot of banks hold a lot of provisioning on their books any which way. So I would say that people who have, this is not only applicable to those who are standard today. Those who are standard, if they're not able to get a sustained restructuring as part of the larger August 6th circular, and this is not just the rules I think had to be framed within those circulars constraints. But if you look at the circular itself, if it has too many strictures, it's not going to be viable for anybody to approach under that circular, and they're likely to go and tell the banks that we will fail 2 years later. We might as well go under the June 7th circular and not kick the can down the road, but do a sustained restructuring. And by the way, external capital will be available only when a restructuring plan is sustainable, not just a 2-year extension.
That is important.
Within the framework, I think this report has come out with good benchmarks. I haven't benchmarked them with pre or post-COVID numbers, but some of them look okay. I mean, to talk about a total net worth a total outside liability to average net worth of around 4 or 3 sounds reasonable. It's not that bad. Actually, it should be lesser than that, but it's good. In aviation, it's been given 6, and I don't know how aviation would service a 6, but all the same, it's there. My view is that these numbers are fine, and we can get bogged down in these numbers. But I think the strictures are too many for a lot of people to go for the schemes. And what's the advantage? Kannan? There still is a 10% provisioning requirement.
Mr. Kannan, are there too many benchmarks, too many things for banks to sign off on for this to be useful?
Absolutely.
I think these are all. In fact, it's good that they are not had too many ratios. I think these basically, if you see, it's only 2 ratios. One is the gearing and the EBITDA gearing, and the second one is the DSCR. And having said that, I think Abizer also, I think we need to be corrected. The figures for DO to NW has to be achieved by 31st March 2022, not 23. The report says 23, but I think the circular says 22. So which means only 1.5 years. So yes, that's one thing I think we need to correct. And I feel the bankers would be in a position to do it. And one point which I think Abizer mentioned, I think I fully endorse, the group gearing. At the unit level, you have the gearing, but then at the group gearing, it happens, and then you'll have an issue at the group level. The group leverage actually goes up. So how they're going to tackle that, I think the individual banks will have to again break their heads and see how it can work out. At the operating level, maybe it will work out, but at the gearing the group level, it may be a big task.